Welcome in everyone to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Good afternoon. I'm Kevin McPherson, your host. It is the afternoon on a Friday, so you're inching closer to, if you're not already off work, being that way or out of school. It's a great time to be looking ahead at this mega Arkansas football matchup here in the 501. By the way, War Memorial Stadium. That's tomorrow. I will be there. But I think we need to talk some Arkansas Razorbacks men's basketball, just like we did this time a week ago. You've got another national top five rated five-star guard in on campus on Friday, getting an official visit. Well, unlike last week when the football Hogs opened up at home in Fayetteville hosting Alabama A&M, there's not going to be a fan atmosphere weekend for the recruit who's in. Last weekend it was Caleb Holt. This weekend, Brandon McCoy Jr. We've been talking about this upcoming visit for weeks in terms of efforting to get a visit. Then we got in the stages of finalizing visit dates. Then we told you it would probably be in September, and the only weekend in September that was open at the time when we were discussing it was this current weekend, September 5th to 7th. Other ones were spoken for with players having prospects coming in for their own weekend. Then we told you the Arafan Diane visit moved from September 12th, 14th out to the 19th and 21st, and he would be on the same week. Freed up another September visit date. 2 days ago, it might have been yesterday, heck, I don't know, but we were talking about, we'd already said this September 5th through 7th date made sense for McCoy. That's probably what it would be. Then we came on whenever the last time I was on was and said, in fact, it would be this weekend. That was the official visit date. I said, was waiting for it to break formally on social media before I would tweet about it. And so the compromise I made was that I would talk about it on my podcast and here on HogvilleNET YouTube Live and break the news that way for Razorback fans that tune in. But I would keep it off social media until the kid made the announcement the way he wanted. And I even said on the last show he might use Joe Tipton. That's one of the main ones to do it. Sure enough, Joe Tipton put it out today. I had my tweet ready to go, so I put my tweet out as soon as I saw that. And so here we go. Brandon McCoy Jr. Again, Caleb Holt last weekend, top five rated five-star guard nationally. Same decorations and honors when you look at how McCoy's viewed. Ranked number two in On3 Sports, so the second best overall player. I mentioned before, McCoy has been rated the number one player in this class. I think at one point consensus with all the services before Tyron Stokes took over. There have been some recent updates. 247 just did an update. And McCoy Jr., I think, slipped a little bit there and with some other ones, but he's still a top 10 guy no matter what the service. And again, On3 Sports has him as the second best player in the country, regardless of position. But I've got him fifth in my rankings. Again, a five-star guard, 6'5", super uber athletic, explosive leaper, long, big guard. He's got elite finisher in open court, slasher in the half court, above the rim kind of a guy. Streaky shooter from the perimeter, but man, he's got a lot of craft in his slash and get to the basket game. And then defensively, he's got elite qualities. I've said it. Jordan Jr., who Arkansas is bringing in later this month, talking about top five rated five-star guards. It's just a parade. You know how they got the old cartoon or joke, clowns piling out of a Volkswagen? Well, you've got recruit top five rated guards piling out of the airplane week in and week out on their trips to Fayetteville to visit. And so here's the second out of three this month. I guess technically Caleb Holt was last month, the last weekend of August, but it was just last weekend. But Brandon McCoy Jr., again, I say Jordan Smith Jr. all the time, the best two-way player when you look at offense, defense. Caleb Holt in that conversation. So is Brandon McCoy Jr. Brandon McCoy is the biggest of the guards, similar in height to Caleb Holt, but I think even a little more sturdily built, maybe a little longer in the wingspan, not sure about that. But man, just crazy athletic. And we talked about the fact that he did not play in the spring when you looked at the three Nike EYBL sessions that were played out in May. He did not compete in that. Then the next time we saw him was Team USA U19 World Cup. That team went undefeated 7-0. Brandon McCoy Jr. was one of four class of 2026 players, all priority recruiting targets for Arkansas at the time. As we told you, the staff said all four, including McCoy Jr., Caleb Holt, Jordan Smith Jr., the other one, Tyron Stokes, who, by the way, is visiting Southern Cal this weekend. And Mark Pope's been out since coaches go on the road, did an in-home and an on-campus visit with him And we talked about Arkansas recruitment there being on life support. I mean, that's a generous description. Apparently we dropped there. She didn't hear. But Brandon McCoy Jr. again on the visit, started today on the road in this recruiting period that lasts through April 30th. Uh, Aiden Conister, I'm getting some different weird things coming up here. Excuse me. I'm getting some odd messages. I don't know. People copy and pasting some work that I did. Marcus Britt, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm getting some weird notifications. Anyway, Calipari, they started East Coast, and I put an article out talking about they were going to start East Coast, and it was guys like Bob Aladot and Jordan Smith Jr. on Wednesday. Then Calipari and Chin Coleman, associated coach, after seeing those guys on Wednesday. On Thursday, yesterday, this is kind of our update. Since yesterday's show, we talked about what they did Wednesday. They were down in Florida. They traveled there Wednesday night and started early in Florida. So we're going to get to that in a minute. But they made their way back to Little Rock and then to Fayetteville. Got back last night there to be on campus, Calipari and the coaching staff, for this weekend visit with Brandon McCoy. But notice they didn't start out left coast and go see McCoy on the eve of him coming on to campus for the LV. Similarly, they did not go out and see Caleb Holt so far, even though they were in Florida, on the heels of Holt's visit to Fayetteville this last weekend. So there's some symmetry there in terms of the recency of having guys on campus or about to get them on, and Calipari holding his water for a little bit about going out and seeing certain players. There's a rhyme and reason to that. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But here's McCoy. And let's go back to the fact that when he was playing overseas in Switzerland at that World Cup event, assistant coach Chuck Martin, again, courtside to see him and those other Arkansas targets in the 2026 class. And then McCoy comes back stateside right after that and winning that gold medal and helping Team USA there, and is back on the Nike EYBL circuit after missing all 3 sessions in May. Session 4 in mid-July, live recruiting period, coaches out, Calipari courtside for everything he did. Then you had Nike Peach Jam the following week and weekend. Once again, Calipari courtside for all of Brandon McCoy Jr.'s games. And we knew it was leading to this. We knew Arkansas was in the mix. It's been real quiet on his recruiting front, but that Arkansas this is one, they're in it to try to win it. And sure enough, the visit that we expected would happen did and is. It's happening right now. So a few things I'm going to give you a little intel about. So you know, it's stuff that some of it seems kind of typical, but I've already been able to confirm some stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But look, here's something important to me about this. Calipari, when you look at a series of players that are similar positionally, whether it's front court or back court, we know he's looking to get 3 or 4. We know that J.J. Andrews is one off the board out of Little Rock. Good stories about it. Justice Hill, Desi Seals. But we got some folks in here wanting to go old school and go back in time. We'll do that another day. But whether it's backcourt players, top level, top shelf 5-star guys, front court guys, you got J.J. Andrews. If you're getting 3 or 4, subtract 1 from that because you already got J.J. Wrapped him up in mid-May, 5-star wing out of Little Rock. And then maybe you're down to 2 or 3. So the idea is, yeah, you prioritize all of these players, but there's only a certain amount that you're realistically going to land. And Calipari's going to have a great shot at all of them, but he's not going to win all of them. So the point here is, how many does he decide if he can maximize it and earn commitments from? We've reported recently, I've got a source that's in line with this thinking that they could go as many as 5. So you pay attention to some of these recruiting visits and don't necessarily assume, well, if this guy's in town, the guy that just came, it's one or the other. There may be a path to bundle multiple players here and bring multiple on in your next recruiting class. So think of it that way, even though it seems like a limited number for Calipari these days relative to what he used to do. Don't rule those things out. The other thing is my guy, one of my basketball guys here in state, that I talk to quite a bit, Pinto. Everybody knows Pinto, Josh, aka Pinto, ES Pinto. He's an influencer, a Razorback influencer, lover of all things Razorbacks. But we talked the other day, and I said, give me your ideal class for Arkansas in this 2026 group. And with J.J. Andrews, he added names like Caleb Holt, Jordan Smith Jr., who's got that upcoming September visit. Holt just visited. And the other name he threw at me was Cole Kloer, who we're going to get to in a minute. That's where Calipari started yesterday, having breakfast with Cole Kloer. That's some intel for you that I put out. I did put it out on my Twitter yesterday. We're going to go through some more of the details of Calipari's Thursday when we wrap up what we want to say about this McCoy visit. I know I'm kind of jumping back and forth a little bit. So, don't think this is necessarily an either or with a Caleb Holt and a Brandon McCoy Jr., or you could combo that, either one of those two with the Jordan Smith Jr. There's more than one way to do this, and there's more than one pathway to getting more than one of these top shelf guys. At the end of the day, my talking point is I think Calipari is going to get at least one. That's a different conversation because we've said it before. Depends on the source information, but Arkansas is not necessarily the perceived leader for everybody or even most of the guys they're bringing in. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to get at least one from each of the main position groups that Calipari's prioritizing, and it could be more than that. And so that was the point of all that. All right, McCoy, just like Caleb Holt did last week, and Holt told me in the post-visit interview that he went to 2 practices. He got to do 2, plus that Arkansas football game, plus other stuff they were doing, meeting with Calipari, a lot of eating out, that kind of thing. Expect more of the same. There's no football game on campus again, so they're not going to be attending a game. But there'll be multiple practices, I'm told, for McCoy to take part, to be in the performance center to see that work. And I think that's good. I think one practice is great. That's better than 0. If you're getting them on campus, they need to attend basketball practice. But the more that you can bring them in that environment, the more they can feel a part of it, the more they can get that energy. Remember last week, the intel was coming out of that practice. Anthony Black was in there. Remember Pro Hog last week with Caleb Holt, how charged it was, how elevated the intensity was, how positive it was, but how, it was like a pro practice and how just on a bigger stage it seemed like than the typical practices, which are productive and instructive. And so they're looking for that same kind of vibe again this weekend and generate that. And you want to do it multiple times. So that's a little more information on this Brandon McCoy Jr. visit. Let's jump into now, almost 13 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. By the way, I spent some time yesterday with Razorbacks royalty. Scotty Thurman. I went to one of my favorite eateries here close to where I live, Terry Lynn's Deli. Tim Jackson, the owner over there, great guy. Terry Lynn's has been around before I was born. I grew up in Little Rock, and they had 4 locations back in the day. But the spot they're in now, I think they've been there for 50 years. And I'm older than that, but not a lot older. Anyway, that's where we met. Thurman and I had a nice Razorback conversation that I recorded and it published earlier today, just after noon. Go check that out on HogvilleNET YouTube if you haven't done it already. I recorded yesterday and published it today. And what we did was we walked through this Arkansas team and kind of did some deep dives on different things, getting Scotty's takes on multiple things about the current team, about Calipari. And he came flat out and said, I expect this team to be a Final Four team. He didn't say, I expect that if the season goes right, Arkansas could be a Final Four team. He said he expects it. And there was a lot more that he said. You need to go check that out. It was really good. And here's a guy that knows that of which he speaks, right? He's on Arkansas's only national title team. He delivered the dagger that was the difference in what was a tie game in the final minute to put Arkansas in that winner's circle. Of course, it was a lot of other people involved in that. But from that, I mean, talking about having a target on your chest the next season when Arkansas played its toughest non-conference schedule in the history of the basketball program, plus a tough SEC. Well, what have we been saying about this upcoming team? Toughest schedule ever. Probably going to be tougher than that one. It's got to play out. But you had someone who's an expert on all the things that are mattering, that are when you circle back 30 plus years later to some of the talking points we're having now. His national title season, he and Corliss and those guys were coming off a Sweet 16 run, and they had a lot of retention from that team when they were freshmen. Last year's Arkansas team, Sweet 16. A lot of good retention. So there was a lot of stuff that's right in his wheelhouse. Go check it out. We're 15 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Let's talk about Cal's moves on yesterday, because they got back to Fayetteville last night to be on campus and be ready, set, go for this Brandon McCoy Jr. arrival. And by the way, McCoy Jr. in those games in Nike Peach Jam while Calipari was courtside for all that stuff once he returned, 22 points per game, over nearly 6.5 rebounds. Had a big 38-point outburst when he was knocking down threes. This is a streaky 3-point shooter, but as he continues to improve there, he's got a chance to really elevate himself. He's already a top 5 rated guy. But when you start looking ahead at as a one and done potential in NBA draft, Jonathan Wasserman, who I refer to all the time, the draft guru over at Bleacher Report, and that's who NBA.com uses when they publish mock drafts. We mentioned J.J. Andrews projected as the 4th overall pick in the 2027 draft. He's got Brandon McCoy Jr. 9th overall. So a lottery pick already with a lot of esteem and acclaim besides the current recruiting rankings we just said. But going back to what Calipari did on the road Thursday, we knew that he'd set up camp in Florida around Bradenton Wednesday night after seeing Baba Aladdin, Jordan Smith Jr. We did a lot of reporting on that, talking about the new visit dates for Baba Aladdin. We maybe consider him tentative for now at the end of October. Again, if you haven't seen that episode yesterday, go check it out. We did that at 5 in the morning. But what was interesting was Calipari makes that shift overnight or through the night to Florida, wakes up in the morning, and then goes and has breakfast at IMG Academy. He and Chin Coleman sat down for breakfast in the IMG Academy cafeteria with Priority Arkansas target class of 2026 Cole Clower, 6'7" wing out of the state of North Carolina, but he plays at IMG Academy. Same school that current Hog freshman 5-star Darius Acuff Jr. started at last year. And there's a couple of Arkansas recruits, including Clower, on that IMG Academy team. So that's how the morning started. And Scott Clower, Cole's dad, sent me a text just kind of randomly and say, hey, they had breakfast together. And I said, they? Who's they? Cal? And he goes, Cal and Chin Coleman. They ate breakfast in the cafeteria together. So I tweeted that out. But here's some intel for you. I'm told that meeting this morning, that breakfast meeting over breakfast, went really, really well. And look at the trend. It's the Hog father. I always say there's that romanticized, mob boss, basketball boss, Hall of Famer, greatest to ever do it, kiss the ring. Those scenes in those kind of movies where these bosses are at dinner having wine, late kick back, and they're having meetings, right? They're going through their mob business over a meal. And so I always picture that with Calipari in a positive way. But once again, it was over food. They had breakfast together. I mean, there's nothing crazy about that. It's just when you inject that whole image of Calipari, and it seems to work because remember Caleb Holt in that interview I did with him, he brought that up. So they got a lot of basketball talk, good conversation worked into those meals when they went out to eat. And so there they are with Cole Clower. I'm told again, that was a very productive meeting, a good meeting. And the fact that Calipari that's one of his first stops tells you what a priority Clower is. Now he comes in October 3rd to the 5th. He's visiting Florida this weekend, all stuff we reported. In fact, back when I broke the news of his Arkansas visit for October 3rd through 5th, I also got the news from Scott Clower when the UConn visit dates were, which were unknown at the time. And so we had a complete picture of all 7 visits. He's already visited North Carolina State. I think that was last weekend. Florida this weekend. UConn's coming up. He's got other visits, North Carolina, Alabama's one. I'm probably leaving somebody out. There's 7 in total. But yeah, Cole Clower, things are looking good, and Calipari continues to prioritize. We'll see where that goes. I don't have any intel to say anybody's the leader right now for him in terms of in the state of Arkansas, specifically the Razorbacks. But there's some talk out there that it's maybe UConn. There's other folks think it's North Carolina State. But we'll see what's true as this moves on because it looks like he'll take all visits. Now we'll see what plays out. That's a month out still. The other player at IMG Academy that Arkansas has prioritized here lately, remember Cole Clower was a late offer at the end of Peach Jam in late July. Well, even later than that was the offer that went out to Chase Foster, the 6'8" forward out of Baltimore, Maryland, also plays at IMG Academy. Cal got to see him play for Team CP3 as well. Team Mello. I think I said CP3 the other day as well. I think it was Team Mello. 17U at Nike, still Nike EYBL for Chase Foster. And so he's teammates with Cole Clower at IMG Academy. So this stop at IMG was also a chance for Calipari and Coleman to visit with and see Chase Foster. Now, Foster, I have a source that's told me, and we've been talking about it on these, has finalized. They were initially working to finalize visit dates. I'm told they're finalized to Arkansas. They just haven't gone public yet. So this is one of those I'm really keeping a close eye on to see, Is he going to be put out later or even or sooner rather than later? Remember, right now it looks like that September 12th through 14 weekend is open. And keep an eye on Abdou Toure as well upcoming because he hasn't announced his publicly. I know those dates. I can't talk about them, but only he can put those out based on what I've agreed to. And that's the 6'5" wing that Arkansas assistant Chuck Martin went out and saw in Connecticut on Wednesday. So a lot of visit dates that are finalized that we're still waiting to hear. But Chase Foster was one of those guys at IMG when Cal and Chin were out there yesterday. Now they moved on after early morning stuff from Braden in Florida, and the jet took off. I was tracking that, stopped in Atlanta. Well, you know who's there. It's Overtime Elite. Stomping grounds of Cal. Tay Kenny, a Kentucky kid that Cal's prioritized as a recruit going back to when he was coach at Kentucky. The kid was in unofficial visits in Lexington on that campus at Kentucky when Cal was the coach there. A big-time relationship there. I interviewed Kenny back in May at the Adidas 3SSB play circuit play in Bryan, Texas. And he said, I want to visit Arkansas. I'm going to work on getting that set up soon. That was what he said during that time. And we know that visit's been announced for a while, and Arkansas has been the last on a heavy visit schedule for Tay Kenny. He'd already visited Kentucky and Louisville and Purdue. Purdue's not on his finals list, by the way. And then he just recently visited Kansas, which we've talked about. Kansas now is being talked about as maybe a front runner up there with Louisville. We've said Arkansas is in that top mix up there. I think that continues to be true. And I think the other thing is, even if it seems like Arkansas might be on the outside looking in, I don't think Calipari necessarily believes that because he prioritized this player on these early stops. Once this recruiting period opened up on Wednesday, he was out there yesterday, again Thursday. And so that was about a midday kind of thing. And he was there for a while, he and Chin Coleman at Overtime Elite. And remember, Calipari's used to pulling a lot of players out of there, most recently guys like Carter Knox and Malik Thomas. And so, this could be a third consecutive recruiting cycle at Arkansas, potentially, where he lands a 5-star guard, take any 6'2" guard. I've got him ranked 12th in my top 25 that I did, the rankings I did for 2026. I think 247 updated today, and they had him 13th. So they had him close to where I do. I don't know if that update was actually yesterday by 247. The days are running together. But Cal and Chin to see Tay Kenny. So when they made their way back to Arkansas, their next stop was a stopover in Little Rock. They arrived late afternoon. They actually got into town around the same time I was meeting Scotty Thurman to do our thing. So we were all in the 501 together. Scotty Thurman lives here. He goes back and forth to Northwest Arkansas. And we know J.J. Andrews lives in Little Rock, plays at Little Rock Christian Academy. That's what Cal and Chin Coleman were here to do. A source confirmed with me that, they got into town. Not only did they get into town, but they were hanging out with J.J. and his family. So there was some family time in addition with J.J. with Cal and Chin Coleman. And I was told that went well. It was all harmonious. What do you expect? The guy's been committed since mid-May. Calipari's been courtside or in attendance for every possible thing he can be that the NCAA allows. And again, on his swing back through these first 2 days of being on the road, he spent some quality time with J.J. Andrews before getting back up at the hill. All right, nearly 24 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. This is more of a stream of consciousness. I've written 5 different articles today, most of them recruiting. We'll do a little bit of schedule information. I've already completed an article for this. I'm not even sure if it's online yet or not. Might be later today. I'm on my story. All my articles are like on a conveyor belt right now. They go out at certain times. That's okay. But Arkansas, Texas Tech, I got an email today. We know this game. We've talked about it. It's been out there. December 13th, that's a Saturday. It's in Dallas, back in American Airlines Arena. Last year, that's where you played Baylor at the end of your first week of the regular season. This year, it's in mid-December. But 2 years in a row in that location for a neutral site game in the Texas home state of the school you're playing. And it's another Big 12 school, right? Texas Tech. The bigger storyline in the lead really is what happened when those two teams last met. Texas Tech ended Arkansas' season in the Sweet 16. We know what happened there. It's a sore spot, right? You get a chance at revenge. But that game we've known about, okay? All the stuff I just said, Saturday, December 13th, American Airlines Arena, Dallas. Well, today the formal announcement came out in a couple of press releases I got emailed to me. One of them, the first one was the one I based my tweet off of because in addition to going through those details, it gave a few more details. The game is as it is now, planned to tip up at 11 a.m. Central Time. So that's going to be a morning start. We know how it is in college basketball. The only good news there for an early game is the Arkansas game won't have to start on ESPN News because some other game that ESPN put in front of Arkansas that nobody cares about is going over. So that's the silver lining there. It's an 11 a.m. Central Time start. And I mentioned ESPN. That's because it was announced also in this email that it will be broadcast by one of the ESPN platforms, the family of networks. So that's ESPN, ESPN2, or ESPNU. And sometimes they do have to push games over to ESPN News because of live programming, at least temporarily, that's carrying over what was allotted for the time slot. So who knows which one it'll land on. We'll learn that later. So there's a little bit more updates in terms of scheduling on a game we knew about. We knew the playing date and location again, but now we know a little bit more. And Arkansas and Texas Tech have had a series that goes back to the old Southwest Conference days. This is one of the few old SWC members that actually has a winning record in basketball in the all-time series against Arkansas. Texas Tech 41-40. So this last win in the NCAA tournament was a tipping point for someone to grab the lead in that series. Arkansas can even it back up in mid-December there in Dallas. And they played 6 times since Arkansas joined the SEC. That was in the 91-92 season. So their last season prior to that was 90-91 in the old SWC. So the 6 meetings they've had since then, they're split evenly. Each team has won 3 games. It's almost a dead even series, right? And then when you look at games played in Dallas, remember a lot of the Southwest Conference postseason tournaments were played in Dallas. A lot of the later Reunion Arena there, and they used to call it Barnhill South. But not when you played Texas Tech in that event. Arkansas is 1-3 against the Red Raiders in Dallas, with 3 of those 4 games being played in the Southwest Conference tournament, postseason tournament. With the winner of the tournament, just like in any league, getting the automatic bid in the NCAA tournament. Everybody else clinching tight in some cases to see if they get one of those at-large invites. All right, that's going to do it. 27 minutes in, Brandon McCoy Jr. watch. Do I expect a commitment coming off the heels of this visit? I don't expect it, but I don't rule anything out. I'm going to be prepared for that. I certainly can't wait to start getting feedback and intel on how the visit's going, some of the little nuances and minutia of the visit itself, things we brought you last week on the Caleb Holt deal. If it's something significant and worthy, I'm going to break in live. I will be at War Memorial Stadium tomorrow. That's the plan as part of the HogvilleNET coverage, written content, and other stuff we'll probably do. But I've got one eye on that and the other, and the good eye on basketball and what's going on with that visit. I have not ruled out, after the game's over and my content's out for the football game tomorrow, driving up to Fayetteville late in the night and being there to do a post-visit interview with Brandon McCoy Jr. I'm still mulling that over. I'm not promising it. It might be a long shot, but damn it, I might just do it. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I appreciate all of you. Please hit subscribe, like, and share. That helps us out. If you haven't done it already. And again, if I don't break in with something pertinent, perhaps we'll be back on tomorrow. Go check out the new episode that I just put out a bit earlier today with Scotty Thurman. You'll enjoy that. If you need notes from the first day of the Calipari on the road with staff, go back to yesterday's segment that I did at 5 a.m. There's a lot of good stuff in there. And if you want to get caught up with what happened with the Caleb Holt visit, we had a lot of HogvilleNET YouTube lives and articles I published, starting Sunday through the meat of the week. You can go back and review some of that. But until next time, appreciate all of you. Thank you for being here. Be great in all your endeavors. Have a great weekend. Anything else I could say? Pay attention to that football game tomorrow. It's Arkansas State Super Bowl. Until next time, we'll see you soon.